Abner Haynes was an American football player, a fullback and return specialist in the AFL, a Dallas, Texas native. He broke the college football color barrier, and he did it when he was a player at North Texas. I had a chance to talk to his son yesterday about his father and the transcendent athlete and individual he was. He's now a member of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. He's a member of many, many Hall of Fames. The Chiefs have retired his number. You know, when he played, it was for the Dallas Texans, owned by Lamar Hunt, who now, of course, the team was moved to Kansas City, and then the Dallas Cowboys started. But it's quite a story, and you know, there's a lot of heartbreak too, because there was such racism in the face of an individual like this who goes first, and there was a lot of pain, and there were a lot of struggles. And, you know, all the way to when he got his scholarship to go play at North Texas, and he was going to become the first black player ever to play at the school. You know, the assistant coaches didn't even know. You know, the head coach knew and really hadn't told anyone. So when he showed up, Abner Haynes did, players were freaking out. Coaches were freaking out. Members of the school were freaking out. The school president was really behind it. So every few days he would show up at practice and just kind of hang there to let people know, like, hey, this is my guy and this is cool. And one of the things I got out of this story, which was inspiring and almost makes you emotional, that because the attitude is so of gratitude, right, from Abner Haynes and from his son who wrote this book. And a lot of the discussion is about, you know, there were a lot of, I mean, for lack of a better word, just assholes and scumbags who tried to hold this guy down, right? Wouldn't let him eat at certain restaurants, right? You can't stay at certain hotels, like just stuff that makes your skin crawl and really makes you sad, makes you want to cry when you think about what these guys must have had to go through. But there's a lot of mention when you talk to Abner Haynes' son. Of course, Abner passed away last year, basically a year ago today, actually. So 1 year he has been gone officially today, July 17th. There were so many significant people, white people, obviously, people who were not of color, who had the opportunity to move this guy forward and to support him, who were there for him. You know, and so rather than focus on all the racism and all the horrific things that happened to his father, and his father was the same way, according to his son, he spent a lot of time mentioning and celebrating the folks who were so close to his dad and who lifted him up, right, in times of struggle, and told him, hey, we're going to do this. You're gonna be a black guy playing in the AFL. You're going to be a black guy. We're taking you on this trip. And if they don't want to send us, or if they don't want to allow us to stay at a certain hotel, like, we're going home. But let's hear it from King David Haynes himself, who wrote the book on his dad. And the book is just amazing. But let's listen to this. I had heard that Hank Stram loved this guy. And the more and more I read, I came to find that was absolutely the truth. And I asked him about that. So let's take a listen to that clip.
Done.
How about playing? You mentioned Hank Stram. Hank Stram, the quote was talking about Abner. He says, he was a franchise player before there were franchise players. And coming from Hank Stram, that's the ultimate compliment. What was your father's relationship like with Hank Stram?
Well, Dad always told me that Hank, more than anyone else, understood some of the pressures that he was under. He understood how to talk to him. He never had done well with people yelling and hollering, and a rah-rah type guy with the insults and what have you. And Hank, to this day, I mean, one of his son and I are great friends. And, you know, we always get together at Chief events, and Lynn Dawson's son, and all of these are my great friends. But he was special. He was the one that looked out for Dad. Like beneath the surface, and he wouldn't let him get caught in the wrong situations. They had a wonderful relationship, and it just got derailed by the overall, the things that were happening that became too overt for my dad to handle anymore, as he became a grown man with a wife and kids, and you still want me to go on the other side of the sidewalk, and I don't feel like I'm any less than anybody else. But Hank and he and my dad had a wonderful relationship, always did. And even when the Chiefs traded him to Denver, it wasn't because Hank Stram wanted them to.
So, and that leads us to the next part of the story. So significant that Hank Stram was such a supporter for Abner Haynes. And by the way, the book is called Abner Haynes, An American Hero. You can get it on Amazon. But he talked about how things got derailed. Lamar Hunt was the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs, and by all accounts, Lamar Hunt was really, really good to Abner Haynes. But when, the shit hit the fan, there was some separation there. And the shit hit the fan at the AFL All-Star game, which was scheduled to take place in New Orleans, Louisiana. And we get into it. I do, talking with Abner Haynes' son here coming up in a minute. We talk about how in that game, there were 20 black players on the AFL All-Star team, right? You get a couple a team, but if you're going to name All-Stars, can you imagine who the best players in the league are? Well, they just might be the black guys, right? So they're all a big part of this team. So you got 20 guys on the team that are black that are going to New Orleans for this game. And there was a boycott. And let's listen to this conversation about that boycott and really about what happened to Abner Haynes on the back end of that boycott. Take a listen.
And my dad was already looking at it. He could see that he had ruffled feathers by them having that boycott in 1965 at the AFL All-Star game.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that, because that's not something I want to go over. That's a huge part of your father's life, of the book.
Yeah.
Take us inside that situation.
Well, in 1965, there were a lot of big cities that didn't have football teams. New Orleans, Charlotte, Tampa, there was no teams there. And Mr. Hunt was marketing, and they would play exhibition games in cities that didn't have a team to, get the fans before the NFL did. And that's why they were playing in New Orleans that year. And it was just a nightmare. My dad flew in with his friend Clem Daniels, played for the Oakland Raiders, but he was from Dallas area, from McKinney, and they flew in together and got to the airport. They couldn't even find a cab driver to take them to the hotel, and they got to the hotel and met with some of the other players from the Buffalo Bills, and all of them were having the same thing. Some had been refused service in restaurants in the French Quarter, and all of them had been called N-words and monkeys, and as I said before, these are grown men now.
Yeah.
And with families and kids, and they decide they couldn't stomach getting treated like that.
And by the way, just for context, I know this is in the book, but so there were 20 black players that were on this team, right? So it was like, it was almost for the city of New Orleans. It was like, oh, that's too much. You know what I mean? Like that was even more why there was so much of a, because usually 2 or 3 guys on a team, not 20. Oh, you know?
Yeah. And exactly. And they just couldn't stomach going trotting out and entertaining the same people that just treated me like dirt.
Yeah.
You know, for a couple of days. And here again, what's interesting is how the white guys reacted. Jack Kemp was the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, and he was there. And he was telling my dad he's 100% with them. Whatever they decide to do, just let him know. And Jerry Mays was also with the Texans. And he wouldn't, my dad always told me, he wouldn't leave his side until they left New Orleans. And they moved the game to Houston instead of canceling the game or making it any bigger incident than it was. But the Chiefs felt like, I'm not going to say what they felt like, but that got him traded to Denver. That was
on a positive note to the story, Al Davis was pretty involved, right, in getting the game moved. How involved was he?
Well, I think that's really who did it, and who I don't think Mr. Hunt was involved in it a lot.
Okay.
I think it was Al Davis that, didn't leave the players hanging, didn't go ahead with the game and act like none of this is happening, but had it moved to Houston.
Okay.
It's a touchy subject, but a lot of the reason why, my dad was basically blackballed because that's not the kind of blacks we wanted who would speak up and defend themselves, or, he kind of was supposed to. I think he was the highest paid player in the AFL, I think he was making $55,000.
Okay.
Of course, a loaf of bread cost a quarter.
Yeah, that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
That was a lot of money back then.
Yeah. But he, it's touchy, but, it all worked out because he made his stands. He never regretted them. He was at peace, because he felt like he did what was best for his people and his family.
I think we would all agree your father was on the right side of history. Yeah, 1,000% on the right side of history. Just want to wrap up this topic again. That the book on Abner Haynes, An American Hero, is available on Amazon, and we're talking about just a trailblazer, a guy who changed just about everything as far as pro football was concerned, and ultimately, catapulted more minorities into a position where they could play pro football, especially here in Texas. And I found one of the things I found the most amazing parts of that conversation was that Abner Haynes actually, after playing in the pros, when he retired, transitioned, worked for Zales, had a bunch of different jobs in Zales, because he knew the gentleman when he was just starting up Zales. So he's all over the country working for Zales, and then he wants to do his own thing. He starts up a boutique sports agency, and becomes one of the only black sports agents, and he represents players from all over Texas. Guys like Cowboys fans, Jethro Pugh. Everybody on the Steel Curtain he represented. Mean Joe Green, from Texas. L.C. Greenwood from Texas. I think Dwight White from Texas. All those guys. And lastly, his final client was Tony Tolbert, who was a member of the Cowboys that won. It was seems like it's ancient, but the last time the Cowboys Oh, these are my Eagles. I'm sorry. The last time they won championships, Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer was the coach, and Tony Tolbert was on those teams. So a great conversation. I'll let you know when the full conversation is up and ready to go on the Texas Sports Hall of Fame podcast, but I had to share that with you guys today. All right, we're going to come back. A couple final thoughts, wrap it up before we get out of here on Friday.